Kadosh Boker Or Masechet Kiddushin Daf Tet Amud Aleph. Says the Gemara. The Gemara says as follows. We're talking about right now Amar Rav Chama. Rav Chama comes and he says Kol Hava Miava Lav Klum. If you remember what happens if a person comes and he gives a woman something and she asks for something, she says, if I give it to you, you're going to get married to me. So she comes and just says, just give it to me, give it to me, give it to me, right? It's like a double lashon of give, right? 10, tell me 10. So says Rav Chama, Kol Hava Miava Ze Klum, Ze Rien. How Gavra? So now the Gemara starts. How Gavra? There was a story with a person that he was in a store and he was drinking wine. Atai hai iteta. A woman came, Mamrale, and she told him, Havli chad kasa. Give me a cup. Amala, right? So he told her, if I'm going to give you a cup, you're going to get married to me? Amrale, she told him, Ashkuye ashkiyan. Give me to drink. Yeah? So Amar Rav Chama, says Rav Chama, Kol ashkuye ashkiyan lav klumu. The same thing. If you give me to drink, the lashon of give me, like a double expression of give me to drink, is also nothing to do with kiddushin. So again, a double give me is not a lashon of give me to become married, and a double of ashkuye also is not a double lashon of to. It means even though I told you give me to drink, even after he went and he said you're going to get married to me with it, still it's nothing. So there was a story of a person that he was taking off dates from the palm tree. There was a woman that came and she told him, throw me two of them. Amala, he told her, if I throw it to you, you're going to get married to me. Amrale, she told him, Shadi Nishta, throw. Amrav Zvid, Kol Shadi Nishta Lav Klumu, the same thing. It's nothing. So it comes out, the double expression of give is nothing. Double expression of drink, give me to drink is nothing. And the double expression of throw is also going to be nothing. Ibailehu. So now the question asks, Hav Ashke Ushidi Mahu. What happens if she didn't double her language? Meaning she didn't use a double language. She just said, throw it to me. Give me to drink. Give it to me. She didn't say, give it to me, give. Or give me to drink, or throw it to me, a double language. She said it once. What's halacha? Amar Ravina says, Mikudeshet. She's married. Yeah, she's married. Okay. Rav Sama Barakta Amar, Rav Sama Barakta comes and he says, Taga de Malka, he's going to swear with the keter, right? Udishtamesh betaga, chalav, taga is a keter. So it says here, if he's swearing with a Taga de Malka, with the crown of the king, ena mekudeshet. She's not mekudeshet. The hilchata halacha is ena mekudeshet. So that's halacha. Whether it's a double language or single language, ena mekudeshet. Why? Because she didn't mean it. She was basically just telling the guy, listen, just get lost, just give it to me. She didn't say yes, that she agrees. She was just, give it to me. Yeah, there was an agreement. You understand? Okay. The hilchata, what is halacha also, like Rabbi? He says, shirayim lo tzrich shuma. When we're talking about now shirayim, which is basically talking about any type of clothing of silk, they do not need a shuma, so you don't have to evaluate them before checking them to find out if she's mekudeshet or not. The hilchata, right? And that's what it says. I mean, even if you chaba him without evaluating it, it's still mekudeshet. The hilchata, and also the halacha, that means the halacha is like Rabbi, not like Rav Yosef. The hilchata Rabbi Elazar, and the halacha is also like Rabbi Elazar, that he says, kachili b'mana, and he didn't give only one dinar. She's mekudeshet on the condition that she gets the last dinar. The hilchata Rav Amar Nachman, and the halacha is like Rav Amar Nachman. Also, right, what she said, if she says kachili b'mana, and he didn't give it to her, but he gave her a mashkon, right? It's not mekudeshet. Why? Because we said mashkon and kan, right? And the dinar and kan. Fine. Okay? Tanu Rabbanan. We learned in a Braita. Bishtar keitzad. Kiddushin bishtar, how are they done? How is Kiddushin bishtar done? Katav lo, if he wrote ala niyar lecheres. If he wrote, that means he went and he was mekadesh, right? That's what it says here. Katav lo mekadesh la via isha. So he wrote it to the father of the woman when she's still a ketana ne'ara, because obviously if she's going to be able to get it, So it doesn't help the father, right? The father only helps if she's a ketana, if she's a minor and an na'ara, between 12 and 12 and a half. So if he wrote ala niyar or al-cheres, whether it's on paper or on a piece of pottery, af al pi she'en bo shaveh pruta, even though it's not shaveh pruta, he wrote bitcha mekudesh li, bitcha meuresa li, bitcha li lintu, harizeh mekudesh. Why? Because the shtar is not the money. Meaning, if you're going to tell me that the shtar is the money, it has to be shaveh pruta. Here, the shtar is not worth shaveh pruta because it was stam al niyar or on a piece of cheres. But the fact that he wrote on the shtar, your daughter is engaged to me, or meuresali, or whatever you want to call it, the translation of each one of these things, your daughter's to me a wife, so therefore it's going to be mekudeshet. So matkif la Rabbi zera bar mamal, as Rabbi zera bar mamal, halo dami haishtara, lishtar zavine. Says 1 second. This is like a regular document of sale then. Meaning, what's the difference between this document and a regular sales document? I have a regular, why? Hatam over there, mocher kotevlo, the seller writes, sadim mechura lecha, my field is sold to you. Hacha, so to here, bal kotev, right, the husband that's mekadesh says, itcha mekudeshali. So therefore, how does the Tana know that a shtar, that the one that wrote it, is chashuv shtar? Yeah? So basically, he comes and he says, right, because the way that they actually explain it is that when we're talking about karka, or for example, an evet kinani, that they're going to be acquired with shtar, in that case, the seller or the giving of the present is the one that's writing the shtar, and he gives it to the receiver. And that's how they acquire it. The Gemara is asking to do with kiddushin, so then it should be that the father of the girl should be the one writing the shtar, not the one that's doing, meaning not the one that's being mikadesh. It should be the father, meaning like this. I'm selling my field. So how do I write? I write the document and I say, I'm selling you my field. It's not that you're saying I'm purchasing your field. I'm the one that's selling it. I write the document. I'm selling my field to you. So the same thing should happen by kiddushin. If I'm the father of the girl, I should be writing the shtar of the kiddushin that my daughter is giving to you, not that you are the one getting married. So you should be writing the document, right, that you're the one taking my daughter. So it answers the Gemara. Rava comes and he says, Hatam, to do the shtar mecher, to do the sale document, we learned the way minyana dekra, the way that it's written in the pasuk. Vehacha, to do with also kiddushin, we also learn minyana dekra. We learn from the pasuk, meaning we're going to take where it's written in the Bible, right, where it's written in the Torah, and according to the way that it's written in the Torah, that's going to illustrate us how do you do the document. So let's see. Hatam over there to do with the mecher, ketiv it's written umachar me'achuzato. The one it's selling from his property, from his achuzah, from his, his inheritance, whatever you want to call it, exactly from that which he has. B'mocher tala rachmana, which means everything is to do with the mocher, which means who's the one that's doing everything? The mocher, not the koneh. Meaning, when you're purchasing a house, it's always that the one that's selling it, he agrees to sell. You're right. Nowadays, in the common documents, they do both. They say he agrees to sell and he agrees to buy. But the ikar was, right, and that's what the Torah is saying, the ikar is, I'm the one that's selling. So everything depends on the mocher. He says over here by kiddushin, ketiv it's written, ki yikach. What does that mean? Ki yikach ishisha. So it's mashma that who's doing the kiddushin. It's not ebitin natati li shazeh, which we mentioned, that's only lo matzati b'chabedulim to do the shemra. No. It says ki yikach ishisha. So it has to do with the Baal, that he's the one that's taking the woman. So therefore, since it's Bebal, so therefore the document of Kiddushin is Talui Babal. It's not Talui in the father giving over his daughter, right? Which, technically speaking, I could have answered very simple. I could have answered Misvara, but he just preferred to answer Mitzad the Torah, because I could have answered Misvara. What happens if there's no father? So then you could have answered, no, maybe it's her writing that she's getting married to him. Ki'ilu, right? That she's the one that's giving over instead of the father, because the father is is only for the Ketana and Nara. She's for the Bogeret, which is, for the rest of the time. But still, it says, Binyana dekra. It's better just to answer according to the way that the Pasuk is being tole. So says the Gemara, one second. Hatam Nami also by Mecher, it's written in Yirmiyahu, not in the Torah, but it's written in Yirmiyahu, which is part of the Nach. It says there, Sadot Bakesef Yiknu. Meaning, if you're already learning from the Torah, listen, there's a pasuk that says you're going to acquire the sadot with kesef. So the same terminology of ki kach, right, ki kneh, right, you're also, so therefore also. So it should also be that a debt document, meaning not a debt document, the sale document, it could also be the one that's buying it, the purchaser. He could also write it. Answers the Gemara, Karibe Sadot Bakesef Yaknu. Meaning, even though it's written Yiknu, Yiknu is that you should purchase it. Yaknu means you're the seller and you're being makne to the purchaser. Everyone understood the difference? One more time. There's the makne, the one that's making the other person have a kinyan, which is the seller. And then you have the one that's doing the kinyan. I'm being kone. So ki yikne, when I'm going to purchase, that I'm doing the purchasing. When it's makne, I'm the one that's being makne to you, and now you could get it.
That's it.
Well, yes, but there's a better in Hebrew. It's hifil, right? And it's that you're doing the action of pa'al. For example, ani ochel lechem. I'm eating bread. Okay, alechem ne'echal. The bread is being eaten. Vani machil lecha et hifil. I'm giving you the bread to eat. Right, that's hifil. So therefore, what happens is that each terminology. So here it's ki'ilu, I'm a makne, right? I'm mafil, I'm coming and I'm doing it to you, right? That's the concept. Not that you're doing it yourself. You are doing the kinyan, okay? So ask the Gemara, "Mai ta'ama kadit be yaknu?" Why is it that the Torah is reading it yaknu instead of yiknu? In the Yirmiyahu, it's written yiknu. Why is it written yaknu? Mishum dichtiv, as it's written, umachar, meaning the pasuk afterwards says, and he sold it. So hachanami, which means that everything has to do with the mocher. So hachanami, so too by the kiddushin, says the Gemara, karibe yakiach. One second. He comes and he says, one second, I've got a pasuk. The pasuk in Yirmiyahu says yiknu. Why do you say it's yaknu? The next pasuk says umachar. So since it's talui b'mocher, even though the previous pasuk says yiknu, so I'm going to read it instead of yiknu, yaknu. Ask the Gemara, by the kiddushin, why don't you also say instead of written ki yikach, you could say ki yakiach, right? Which means that when the other one is going to give to you, right? Which means that the father is the one that's mikadesh the daughter to this guy, and other the guy is being mikadesh. So says the Gemara, right? Why dichtiv? But also by kiddushin, it's written, that's what I told you to do with Moshe Shemra. It's written, I gave my daughter to this man. So if it is written a concept that I am the one giving my daughter to this guy, so it depends on me, meaning the one that's giving over, not the guy that's getting married to the daughter. So answers the Gemara, Elama Rabba, but rather Rabba says, you're right. It's halakha l'mashum Sinai. Meaning I cannot bring you a proof from the Pesukim, because I had a pasuk from the Torah, but I have pasuk from the Nevi'im. And even in the Torah, I found both. Because I found ki kach, which means it's on the husband, and I found a bitin natatu jazeh, which is on the father. And by the mecher, I also found both. I found that umachar me'achuzato, and then I found sador b'kesav yiknu. Then I said, no, you have to read it yaknu. Then so being from the Torah, I cannot bring anything, because I have both from the Torah. I have from the mocher, from the lokeach. I have from the father of the girl and from the husband. So I have each one in the Torah. So I have nothing from the Torah. So it says Rava, you're right. Once you say it's tradition, this is the way that it's supposed to be. That's it. You can ask a question. Now the rabbis came and they wanted to say, you know what? Everything's always hinted in the pasuk. So I want to hint it in the pasuk. So it's hinted in the pasuk. You're right. You could ask, or meaning if it was only based on the pasuk, I could ask you a question and have a rebuttal. You're right. So once I have a halakha Moshe, you can ask a question. That was the tradition that they received from Moshe Rabbeinu. Why is it like that? There's no questions on halakha Moshe Sinai. That's a tradition. But I say, you know what? It's nicer to say that it's based upon a pasuk. Even if I could ask a question against it, it's nicer to say that. That's the first answer. If you want, you can answer. Hatam nami ktiv. There it's written also in Yirmiyahu, right? Vayekach et sefer hamiknah, right? Which means that it's also to do with the sefer, which is the one of the mocher. So it comes out that, technically speaking, I have the Torah. In the Torah, it was written, umachar mechalzato, and by the marriage, it's written, ki yikach. I asked the question from Yirmiyahu, then Yirmiyahu it's written, sador b'kesav yiknu. So Tzumash has to do with the lokeach, the purchaser, that he's going to acquire. Instead of coming and saying the next pasuk, which is umachar, it's also written in Yirmiyahu, Sefer HaMikneh, which is Sefer HaMikneh, right? Which this Sefer HaMikneh also again shows you about the makneh, the mocher. So therefore, forget about also the next pasuk, which says umachar. There's another. So since in Yirmiyahu I've got two different concepts, and I don't know which one is which, meaning like which one all proceeds, I go back to the Torah. And in the Torah it says umachar. Since the Torah, so I go back to the Torah. And therefore I'm going back to the Torah, which means that the Torah is the main thing. But by Kiddushin in the Torah was written ki kach, and therefore it has to do with the concept of likuchim, right? That's why it has to do with the husband. Okay, fine. Let's go back to what we mentioned above before getting into all the questions about, who's the one that's writing the document or who's the one, the one. But let's go back to the brighter that we mentioned. Amar Rav Nachman says Rav Nachman, Katav lo ala niyar lecheres. What do we mention? If he's going to write, whether it's going to be on paper or on cheres, even though the money, the document is not worth, meaning the piece of paper or the pottery is not worth a sheva pruta, ben al yedei aviha, whether the one that's receiving the shtar is the father, ben al yedei atzma, or she is the one that's receiving it, doesn't matter, mekudeshet. She is going to be mekudeshet, which means she's going to be married. Okay, midato, right? But that's as long as the father agrees to it. That has to be b'retzon avia. Vehu shelo bagra, and also as long as she was not bogeret, because once she's a bogeret, you don't need the retzon of the father. She's on her own entity. Meaning, until bogeret, she's always under the jurisdiction of the father. So therefore, he's writing down on the paper, bitcha, your daughter is married to me or engaged to me, however you want to translate, or is my wife. Each one. Now, doesn't matter whether he gave the document to the father or he gave the document to the daughter, right? Meaning the girl that he's going to actually marry, right? Whether she's an ara or she's a minor, doesn't matter what. As long as the father had meaning she has the consent from the father, she's married. So says the Gemara, katavla ala niyar o lacheres. If you wrote it on the niyar or on the cheres, even though there's no shave pruta, I don't know why here we switched the order from mekudeshet into and the meureset instead of mekudeshet meureset into, but whatever it is, mekudeshet. She's going to be mekudeshet. Ben alidei avia, whether it's through the father, ben alidei atzma, midata. Here it says midata, but vehusha bagra. That's as long as she was bogeret, meaning that the fact that she was already bogeret, right? Now I understood the difference. Because here, since it's doing it directly to her, it doesn't have to do with the bitecha. No shaliach. There's no shaliach. What? No, but there's no shaliach here. What? Where are you? No, that's because when she's putting her father to be her shaliach. No, but because here beforehand we were talking about the language was bitcha. Why? Because it was all going on your daughter, because the daughter cannot do anything on her own. You always needed, right? You always needed the father. So that's why there's always, your daughter is married to me. Your daughter is mudasa to me. Your daughter is for me to a wife. In the second case, since she's already bagra, everything has to do with her. Right? That's why it says, Hareat mikudeshali, Hareat lilintu, Hareat meureseli, because everything had to do with her, because she was already a bogeret, and she has nothing to do anymore with the father. Okay? Fine. Says the Gemara, By Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Asa Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Shtar Erusin, Sheketavo Shelo Lishma. When you have a Shtar Erusin, right, that a person wrote it, not Lishma, meaning, not l'shem ha'isha mitkadeshet. What's the halacha? Meaning, usually we know by a get has to be lishma, right? The kat of la, right? What is that? La lishma. What does it mean lishma? For this woman. If you wrote a get and it wasn't for this woman, even if she had the same name, Fatima, and I don't know what, whatever it is, doesn't help. It has to be for her. Here, it doesn't say the name. It just says Hareat Mekudeshali if he's writing it directly to her. Or Bitcha, if he's writing it to the father, right? Bitcha, leading to Bitcha Mekudeshali. There's no names. So what happens right now?
She has two daughters.
Yeah, if he has two daughters, or it was for somebody else. Imagine, you come to a sofed, you say, write down on a niyar or cheres, Bitcha, right? Meureseli. Or write down Hareat Mekudeshali. And then he comes and he says, you know what? Let me decide. Yeah, shuf einik, you go to the shuk, say, this one, she's the lucky one. He thinks she's lucky, right? Yeah, so he comes, here it is. What's halacha? Why? It's not lishma. So if it's lo lishma, what's halacha? So says the Gemara, what is the safek? Where does the safek exactly come from? Havayot litziot makshinan. Do we make a hekesh? Right? A lot of people, they always like to do hekeshim. What is a hekesh? Juxtaposition, proximity. What does that mean? I'm going to take two things which are written close by, and I say that they have the same halachot. So therefore, do I say havayot litziot makshinan, that I'm going to come and I'm going to make a hekesh, the havaya, which means the making of the marriage, just like the breaking of the marriage, going out of the marriage, which means ma, right? Teta mubet, 9b. Ma yitziyah, just like leaving a marriage, ba'ina lishma, which is a get. You need lishma. This is the katavla. The katavla means lishma. Af havaya, so to the making of the marriage, which is the havaya, ba'inan, right? Lishma, we need lishma. Or din mar maybe havayot lehadadi makshinan. Or maybe be'emet havayot lahadadi. What do you mean havayot lahadadi makshinan? Which means we're going to be medameh, right? The kiddushin to each other, right? Ma havaya de kesef lo ba'inan lishma. He says, just like havaya by kesef, we do not need lishma, right? Af havaya dishma lo lishma. Meaning like this: by money, do you have to mint the money? Lishma? No, you take the money, right? And here it is, right? So therefore, right? Havayot lahadadi, we come and we make a juxtaposition. We make to the same halacha. Meaning, there's kesef, shtar, and biyah. Since the kesef and shtar, I'm going to come and I'm going to compare them to each other, right? And therefore, ma havaya, right? Just like by havaya, right? Which is by kesef, you don't need lishma. So to shtar, you don't need lishma. Yeah, and therefore that's what we need. So answers the Gemara, batar debaya hada pashta. After they ask the question, they answer the question. Havaya letzia makshinan. We make havaya letzia. The Amar Kral, there's a pasuk says, V'yatzea v'ayita. What does that mean, V'yatzea v'ayita? It means that just like V'yatzea, when she goes out and needs lishma, Tutu v'ayita needs lishma. So it comes out that according to this, when you're going to be writing a shtar kiddushin, you need it lishma. You need it lishma. Okay? Fine. Next. Itmar, it was stated, Ketavo lishma. If he wrote the shtar kiddushin lishma, v'shelo midata, and not with her yidiyah, which means he didn't write it beforehand with her permission, meaning he did it lishma, but he wasn't midata, meaning that when he wrote the document, he didn't ask her beforehand, will you marry me? And I want to write. No. He just wrote the document, but he did it lishma. He did it for her. He wanted to get married to the frecha. Yeah? So what happens? So he says, Rava v'Ravina amre mekudeshet. Rava Ravina says she's mekudeshet. Rav Papa Rav Shavi amar amri en mekudeshet. Rav Papa Rav Shavi say en mekudeshet. Amar Rav Papa says, Ima tamadidhu. I'm going to say that the reasoning of Rava and Ravina is, why do they say that? Ve'ima tamadidin. I'm going to come and I'm going to say my reason. Ima tamadidhu. I'm going to tell you their reason. This is, by the way, just always shows you the derech eretz of the way that it was. The derech eretz that they had, like Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai. Why do we pass like Bet Hillel? Because they were always makdim divrei Bet Shammai, the divrei Bet Hillel. Meaning, usually, by nature, if you come and you tell me, what's this? I'm going to tell you, I hold A, Mr. So-and-so holds B. They did the exact opposite. Mr. So-and-so holds A, and I hold B. Meaning that I go second, not first. That's the way that Bet Hillel used to do. Here he did the exact same thing. Rav Papa comes and he says, I'm going to come and tell you their reasoning first, and then I'm going to tell you my reason. I'm going to tell you their reason. Huh? No, nothing to do with it. I'm just telling you the same system, right? I'm going to tell you, right, their reasoning. It says, you're making a hekesh, havaya letzia. Ma yetzia lishma shelo midata, afavaya nami lishma shelo midata. Which means this: when you give a get, do you need midata?
No.
No. What does that mean? Right? Which means that when you come and you give a get, other than Rabbeinu Gershom Eragula, that he said that it had to be midata, and that's what Ashkenazim hold until today. But right, we hold, right, and that's also Shita Maran. No, afilu bal korcha. What does it mean bal korcha? Against her will. You don't need to ask her, does she want the get? You write the get. That's just the way that it is. Gaman. Yeah. One second. So he comes and he says, right, what happens now is as follows. So he comes and he says, right, just like by the Kiddushin, you need lishma, but you don't need midata. So too by the Kiddushin, you need lishma, but you don't need midata. So therefore, that's why they said that it's going to be kosher. That's Rava and Ravina. They said mekudeshet. Why? It was lishma. Shalom midata. I don't need it. Hekesh. Havayol litzion. Ve'ema tama didina. Rav Papa continues. He says, I'm going to give you my reasoning now. V'yatzia v'ayitama ki shavayol litzia, making the same hekesh of Havayol litzia. Ma yetzia ba'inan dat makneh. Just like by the yetzia, you need a dat makneh. The husband is the one that's being makneh, the woman, to herself. So the husband is the one that needs a dat. So to here, to do with havaya, you need dat makneh. Who's the one that's making the kinyan? The woman is giving herself to the husband to make the kinyan. So therefore, you need dat makneh, mitzad the woman. That's why you did need that. So if Rav Papa says, I'm still making the exact same hekesh of havaya and yitzia, of kiddushin and girushin, I'm making the exact same hekesh, but learning two different things. They're learning that just like you could divorce a woman against her will, you don't need midata, right? But you do need lishma. So to the shtar kiddushin, you need lishma, but you don't need midata. You could write it even though she doesn't know about it, and then you just give it to her, and as long as she accepts it, everything's good, fine, and dandy. However, Rav Papa comes in himself. He says, "No, I apologize." He comes and he says, "By the get, it has to be midat the husband." Why does it have to be midat the husband? He needs his dat to be makneh otal leatzma. He has to be makneh otal. He has to acquire her to herself. So just like you need dat makneh by the get, you need dat makneh by the kiddushin. Who's the one that's makneh by the kiddushin? It's the woman, not the husband. The husband has to acquire. But if she doesn't have the kavanah to be acquired, it doesn't help. It doesn't help. That's why it needs midat. That's why it needs midata. So he comes and he says, Meitvei, so we're going to ask on Rava and Ravina.
We answered it already.
Huh? We didn't answer. Now we're going to ask.
No, you know how? Actually,
so Meitvei, we're going to ask the question now from Mishnah Batra Kufsam Tzayim Mubet. En kotvin shtare rusim v'nesuim ela midat shneim. Here it's a Mishnah Mefureshet. Mishnah Mefureshet tells you you're not going to write any document, any shtar of Erusin or Nisuin. Doesn't matter whether it's a shtar of Erusin or a shtar of Nisuin. Ela midat shnehen. It needs both of them. What does it mean, both of them? It means that you need a dat of both of them. My lover, we're not talking about shtar Erusin the Nisuin mamash. We're not talking about mamash shtar Erusin and shtar Nisuin. So we had a question. If you wrote the shtar lishma, we already proved that you need the shtar lishma. Correct? We need the shtar lishma. And you don't need kesef lishma, because you don't need to mint the money lishma. You just give her the money. Okay? But the shtar, you do need lishma. The question was, do you need that? So the machloket. The machloket was, right, between Rava and Ravina, right, and Rav Papa and Rav Shravia. Rava Ravina says, she's mekudeshet even if it doesn't have data. Rav Papa and Rav Shravia says, ena mekudeshet. Ask the Gemara on Rava Ravina, how could you tell me mekudeshet that she's married even if it's not going to be midata? That means the writing was not done midata. Again, the accepting has to be midata. That's lechulam. But the writing does not have to be midata. So how do we know that? He says, 1 second, but here's Shutim Furash, that you don't write it unless what? Unless you have dat shneim. And here we're talking about shtari rusin. So we're not talking about shtari rusin mamash. Answers the Gemara, lo. No. The Mishnah is not talking about shtar kiddushin, but rather shtar psikta. Shtar psikta or shtar tanaim. There, shtar tanaim, Ashkenazim do this until today. Shtar tanaim is a document of different tanaim about what each side is giving. So the Khatan says that he's going to give, flop, or he's going to give this, or and the Kalas family is going to give that and this, and each side is going to give money towards the house, or that's called shtare psikta. What does it mean, shtare psikta? Shtare psikta means documents that has to do with conditions on going both sides. That's al dat shneim. But shtar kiddushin doesn't need to be a Dutch name. So maybe it's like Ravina Virava. Yeah, Ravina. There's no problem. Says the Gemara, Rav Gidal Amarav, just like Rav Gidal Amarav says. Tamar Rav Gidal Amarav says Rav Gidal Amarav, Kama Tanut Levincha. Imagine a person comes and he says, no, how much are you going to give to your son, right, for his wedding? So he comes and he says, Kach bekach. And how much are you going to give for your daughter, Lebitcha? Kach bekach. Amdu v'kidshu, when they get married, Kanu. They acquire that which they said. There are certain things which are acquired with saying them. There are certain devarim, right? Certain devarim that are acquired just with words. What is the concept of words? Meaning like this. If I come and I say, I'm going to give David $1 million, does he acquire the $1 million?
No.
No. Why? It's only words balma. Right? There's no kinyan. There's nothing there. But if I come and I say, I'm going to give to my son a certain amount of money, or I come and I say, I'm going to give to my daughter a certain amount of money, they are going to be acquired with words. Why are they going to be acquired with words? There's a famous Saran here, the concept that basically that a parent, he has so much smichut dat that he wants to help his children, that he's gamar makne, even though it was only done by peh, and it wasn't done, right, with a kinyan. And still it's going to actually go through such a case. Ubebiyah, write it down, please. Right? Ubebiyah. We're talking about biyah. Yeah? When we're talking about now biyah, it's wrote down as follows. Yeah? It says like this. He says, by biyah, a person is going to get married through biyah. Minallah. How do we know that a person can get married through biyah? We spoke about until now we spoke about kesef. We learned the kicha mistefron. We spoke about the shtar. Right? And now we're talking about biyah. How do you know that a woman could be acquired through biyah? Amar Rabbi Avhu, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Says Rabbi Avhu in the name of Yochanan. Tamarkal says in the pasuk, Ki matze ish shochev im isha beulat Baal, umetu gam shenehem. What does that mean? When you're going to find that a man is sleeping with a woman, that she is beulat Baal, meaning that she's a married woman, right? So they both die. Melamed shena'asa la Baal al yedeh be'ilah. The fact that the Torah called her a beulat Baal, it teaches you that how does he become the Baal? Through the be'ilah, through the biyah, through relations. So through beilat Baal. So ask the Gemara, Amar le Rabbi Zera le Rabbi Avhu, ask Rabbi Zera to Rabbi Avhu, and some people say it's Resh Lakish to Rabbi Yochanan. When it says Ke'ura zu sheshana Rebbe, right? Well, he says what? This mechoeret that Rebbe came and he taught a braita, right? Kikach ish isha uvalah melamed shenikne bebiyah. He says 1 second. Why exactly? Right? Okay, again, it was either Rabbi Zera to Rabbi Avhu or Resh Lakish to Rabbi Yochanan, right? He comes and he says, this woman that the Braita says, Kikach ish isha uvalah. The man takes a woman and then he has relations with her. Are we going to tell you, why doesn't that teach you, Be'emet, that a woman is acquired with biyah? Why don't we just say that? Like, that you're coming and you're getting it from, you found a woman cheating on her husband, beulat Baal. Why? Kikach ish isha uvalah. Come on. So answers the Gemara, imehata. Says Rabbi Avhu, right, or Rabbi Yochanan, whichever one. Imehatam, if it was only from there, hava mina, I would have thought to say, ad mekadesh v'hadar ba'il, which means that kiddushim are not going to be chal until you do it with money, because it says ki kach ish isha, and then you have the relations. Okay, which means that ki kach ish isha is talking about the kesef, ubala is then talking about the beila, and therefore only through both of them you have a marriage. Because you have both. You have kesef and you have biyah. He says, Kamash Malan, huh? What? No. We're talking about kiddushin now, not about nisuin. Right? It doesn't matter. But again, that was the kiddushin was done with the biyah. Kamash Malan comes to teach you that what? That when it says beulat Baal, it was only done through beilah, not done through kesef at all. And that's why we needed the second pasuk But the second pasuk had to do with only biyah, nothing to do with money. Ve'ulat Baal. So therefore, from there you learn that you became Baal through Beilah. So that's a proof that you could become a Baal only through them. Means you could do Kiddushin through biyah. Okay, fine. So Matkit la Rabbi Abba bar Mamal asks Rabbi Abba bar Mamal, 1 second. How can you make a mistake in the concept of uvala? In ken if so, nara meorasa damarachmana. When it's written by nara, we're talking about a betula, that she was nara meorasa, that she cheated on her husband. The Torah says that she's beskila. Remember, beirusin, it's skila. Nisuin, chenek. Meaning, if the woman was engaged, again, engagement of the Torah, so then she gets skila, she gets skilled through sekila. If the woman was 100% a married woman and then she committed infidelity, chenek, strangulation. Okay? So says the Gemara, Rabbi Abba bar Mamal comes and he asks, if you're going to tell me now this, Na'ara me'orasa that the Torah says, b'skila, what was the case? What was the case? Why? If it was first done, kiddushe kesef, v'hadar ba'il, and then there had to be a relations, be'ulahi. She's a be'ulah, she's not a betula. It says in the Torah, na'ara betula me'orasa. She's not a betula anymore. Meaning, if you're going to learn kipshuto, that when it said, ki kach ish ishal balah, that the only way of kiddushin is you need both together. You need kiddushin and bi'ah. So now how do you find na'ara betula me'orasa? Does it exist? Because how is she married? There had to be kinyan of kesef and biyah. Now, if she has biyah, she's not a betula. She's a beula. So how do you find out a betula? The aktish. Now, if you're going to tell me they were talking about that it was kesef velo ba'il and there was not uvala, it was not beilah, lav klum. So she's not even mekudesh of that. She's nothing. So it's impossible to learn that the pasuk ki kach ish isha uvala means you need both. Because if not, there's no such thing as na'ara betula me'orasa, that she cheated on her husband and she's going to get skila. Doesn't exist a case. Either she's already a beula and therefore she's not a betula, or she's nothing. Why? Because there was no beula. So answers the Gemara, Amru Rabbanan kameda Abaye. They said it in front of Abaye. Mashkacha la, you find it. Kegon sheba alea arus shelo kedarka. He says, you know where you could find it? You could find it in a case where the arus came and he had relations with her, meaning he did the kinyan kesef. After the kesef, he did have biyah, but not regular biyah. Biyah shelo kedarka, right? Biyah through the back, right? Which means that it's not kedarka. And in such a case, right, it comes out that there was a kiddushin, the kesef, and biyah. That's what makes her into what? Into a meureset. But she's still a betula. So says the Gemara, one second. Amaleh Abaye comes and he says, until here, the rabbis and Rabbanan do not argue, does biyah shelo kedarka make her into beula or not? Ella be'acher, only by somebody else that's not the husband. Aval Baal, but if it's the husband, Divra Akol, according to everybody, in Baalea shelo kedarka sa beula. According to everybody, she's considered beula, which means like this. If right now a woman that she's not married, she has relations, but the relations with shelo kedarka, there's a machloket between Rabbi and Rabbanan. Is she considered a beula or a betula? Is she considered a virgin or not? Some people wanted to learn, whether it's Rabbi or Rabbanan, that she's still a virgin. Why? The virginity is in the front, not in the back. Other people want to say, no, because it has to do with virginity of being with a man. She was with a man. So fine, it's true. She still has the glands of the hymen, right? But at the end of the day, she's not a virgin. She had a relationship. She was with a man. So therefore, no. But that was a machloke between Rabbi and Rabbanan to do with another man. According to everybody, if it's with the same husband, meaning with her husband, doesn't matter whether it's through the front or through the back, she's always considered beula. So for again, you have this question. So what are you talking about then? Fine. What is the machloke between Rabbi and Rabbanan? Maihi. Tanya is going to the Braita. Ba'u alea asara anashim va'adain hi betula. What happens if 10 people have relations with her, shelo kedarka, and she's still a betula? Kulan beskila. Now again, we're talking about now a na'ara hameorasa. Okay, so one more time. Na'ara meorasa right? 10 people have relations with her, right? So what happens is everybody gets sikila, meaning you could say, but why? After the first time, why would the second guy get sikila? She's not a nara betula anymore. But that's what's happening, right? So one more time, 10 people have relations with nara betula. They have relations with her shelo kedarka, right? Because remember, if it was kedarka after the first one, she's not a betula anymore, according to everybody, because it was through the front. We're talking about through the back. So since it was through the back, shelo kedarka, of course, they have relations with a married woman, with a nara betula, hameorasa. So, but not only the first one is chayav, every single one of the 10 is going to be chayav. Okay? Rabbi says, Omer ani, I say, harishon beskila. The first one gets skila. The kulan bechenek, and all the rest of them, they get chenek, like any regular deen of an eshet ish. Because since she already had relations with the first person, she's not considered a betula anymore. So since she's not considered a betula anymore, she doesn't get the deen of nara betula meorasa, but rather like a married woman. So therefore it goes down from sekila to chenek. Okay, that's the machloke between Rabbi and the Rabbanan. So says the Gemara. So now, however, though, it comes out that this is what Rabbi was saying, that there's no machloke, that the only machloke was to do with the damacher. But if it's going to be bala, which is shelo kedarka, chachamim are modin to Rabbi, that what? That she becomes a beila. So Amrav Nachman bar Yitzchak, says Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, if it would have been, right, a case that like what Rabbi Yochanan is saying, that an isha is mitkadeshet only bekesef and biyah together, mashkacha la, you could still find it, kegon shekidsha bishtar. For example, you're mikadesh with a shtar, vehoil vegomer umotzi, gomer umachnis. Which means like this. When we're talking about a case where, right, you could find the nara betula meorasa, that she was zinta. How do you find the case? And still the arus did not have relations with her. Okay? The shtar for sure does the kiddushin even without the biyah. That means it comes out that the shtar is better than kesef. Because according to the way that we went on to learn the pasuk, ki kach ish isha has to be with kesef, and then ubala has to be with biyah. So once you have kesef and biyah, now she's considered mikudeshet. So he comes and he says, Kigon shekidusha b'shtar. You can find it. She was kiddushin with shtar. Ve'hol ve'gomer umotzi, because since the shtar is able to divorce, so too gomer umachnis. It finishes, meaning when you get divorced, how does a person get divorced? Through shtar, and that finishes the entire process. It's only a get. There's no other process. So too gomer umachnis. You don't need anything else also, which means just like the divorce process is only through a shtar, so too the marriage process is enough only with a shtar, and you don't need anything else. So therefore, if you have this case where basically what happened is that you have a marriage done through a shtar, and then there was nara betula meorasa, you could find nara betula meorasa. One more time, let's zoom out, right? One more time. We had a pasuk. Pasuk says ki kach ish, isha ubala. We said, why don't we learn from there that you could do biyah, and biyah helps, right? Just like kiddushin. Says the Gemara, you know why I need another pasuk? Because if not, I would have had a havamina that when it says ki kach ish isha ubala, you need kesef kiddushin, that's ki kach, and you need bila. Only by both of them together does it help. Says the Gemara, if you need both of them together, and that's what it means, ki kach ish isha ubala, and that's why you needed the other pasuk of beula bal. How do you find the case of nara betula? Right? How do you find the case of nara betula meorasa? Right? If she had relations with her husband, she's not a betula, and therefore the entire case went down the window. And if she didn't have relations, she wasn't married. So therefore, so what's the havamina? They say no. It means you need both, and if you don't have both, zeklum. Why? Doesn't make sense. Says the Gemara, no, it could be done shelo kedarka. Says the Gemara, it's a machloket. And they said, no, 1 second. Even the machloket is only by Adam Acher. If it's to do with the same husband, according to everybody, right, shelo kedarka is considered a biyah, which means that she's not considered a beula.
רבי במשתה אחרת אומר להם שזה כן תופס, זה רק מוריד את האישה אחרי זה לאחרים, כי הוא כן בעל אותה. זה לא יכול להיות המקרים ככה.
זה בן אדם אחר. זה בן אדם אחר.
אמרת כולם. רבי זה באותה אחד, באותה משנה. כי אם אתה עובר לדעת אחורה, רבי כן נמצא פה. רבי זה...
לא, זה בבעל.
נכון.
זה אנשים אחרים.
נכון.
לא הבעל.
לא. אוקיי, ומה אומר אנשים אחרים?
מה זה אומר על אנשים אחרים? יש רבנן ורבי.
יפה, מה רבי אומר?
רבי אומר, הראשון זה בסקילה, כל האחרים זה בחנק.
בראשון רבי ורבנן הם בסדר, כן, באותה דעה, כן?
ודאי, זה בגלל שזה בעל.
כן.
פה זה אנשים אחרים.
אוקיי.
יש אנשים אחרים, יש את הבעל. בבעל, זאת אומרת, אם אותה בעל, the same spouse, לכו לעלמא, בין לרבי, בין לרבנן, שלא כדרכה, עושה אותה בעולה. כי כבר נחשב בעולה. עם הבעל, בעולה. מתי זה המחלוקת ביניהם?
זה לא הבעל.
זה לא הבעל, זה אנשים אחרים. אז לפי רבנן, היא עדיין בתולה. זאת אומרת, כל 10 אנשים, הם באו על נערה בתולה. רבי חולק על רבנן לגבי אנשים אחרים. Okay? So, now we say, now I have an answer. You know what the answer is? Really, באמת, כי ייקח איש אישה ובעלה, זה בדיוק מה שאמרתי לך. כסף הם בייה. No, but כי ייקח is כסף. כיחה מסתער from. Right? It's כסף. Right? The only reason why we said shtar was because of the gamar havaya ליציאה. We learned it from Girushin. Right? From Gitin. But he comes and he says this. He says, 1 second. You know what was the question? The question is, what's the havamina to say ki kach means kesef and bala means biya, and that's the only way to do it, right? How do you find out abitula morasa? You know what you find out abitula morasa? Shtar. Shtar. Why? Very simple. Shtar lechule alma levad ze tzarich laazor. It should help. Why? Yeah, you don't need. Only by itself. Why? You learn from Girushin. Just like by Girushin, the shtar, the get, does everything, and you don't need anything else. So too by Kiddushin, the shtar should do everything, and you don't need anything else. So therefore, if you have a case of a guy that got married to his wife through a shtar, now you have nara betula. You're right in Achanami. If there was kesef, which means that you needed the kesef and the biyah, you don't have the case of nara betula. You don't know the case of Nara Betula. She's like a regular Shatish, give her chenek. You're right. When do you have the case of Nara Betula Morasa? Shtar. And that's it. And that's all that you have it.
Rabbi אוחז בשיטה
Rabbi Yochanan, and according to Shtat Rabbi Yochanan, right? What does he do with this? Hai uvala. What does he do with the word uvala? At the end of the day, now that we just said that you need this Kiddushe Biyah from Beulat Baal, so why do you need uvala? Right? Okay. How do you know you could do Biyah? When you found the married woman, kibulat baal, he became the baal through biyah. Says the Gemara. So why do I need uvala? Kikach ishisha uvala. Why do I need the word pasuk? Kikach ishisha v'gamarnu. Says the Gemara. How we baile? There it comes to teach you. Zo niknet bebiyah, ben ama ivriya niknet bebiyah. It came to teach you that only in this case is a woman going to be acquired through biyah, and not in the case of an ama haivriya. Why? Salka daita chamina, I would have thought to say, right? Teiti bekal v'chomer miyivama. I can learn an ama ivriya with a kal v'chomer from the yivama. Uma yivama sheniknet bekesef, niknet bebiyah. Remember, by yivama, the only way to get married to her is through biyah. So by the yivama, she's not going to be acquired through money. She's going to be acquired through biyah. Zo, this ama ivriya. Sheniknet bekesef, that she's going to be acquired through kesef. Remember, how do you acquire an ama ivriya? With money. So now to acquire her, shouldn't it be enough that for sure biyah should also help, right? And therefore, that's why you need the pasuk uvala to teach you that en ama nivriya niknet l'shem amhut al yedei biyah, right? But only through kesef, meaning to become an ama ivriya, it's not through biyah, it's only through kesef, and that's why it says uvala is only by this woman can you do it through biyah, right? Ki yikach shisha, through a wife, not through an ama ivriya. So ask the Gemara, Mali Yevama, she can zikwa moment. One second. The Yevama has a zikah. The Yevama has an attachment to the Yavam. This woman has no attachment to her husband. Before they're married, there's no attachment. So says the Gemara, Salka Dagamina would have thought to say, since it's written, Imacheret Yikachlo, that if he's going to take another one, which means there we're talking about that if the after the Ama, the guy comes and he takes another wife for his son or for himself, Hikisha katuv la'acheret, which means there's a kesh to another woman. Ma echeret mikniya bebiyah, just like another woman you acquire through biyah, so to ama ivriya you're going to acquire through biyah. Kamash Malan comes to teach you uvala that only a regular woman is going to be mikadeshet bebiyah, and not an Ama Ha'ivriya. Meaning, I would have had a Havamina, that there in Parashat Mishpatim, when we're talking about Ama Ha'ivriya, and immediately afterwards it's written, V'macheret yikach lo, right? Sherak Sutov Anotah lo yigra, that he still has to give her Sherak Sutov Anotah, that there, I would have thought there's a kesh there to do with another wife. So no, over there, right? Remember, even another woman, it's bibiyah. But to do with the same Ama Ha'ivriya, it's never going to be with biyah. The Rabbi, now Rabbi, that he learns from Uvalah, that an Isha is mikadesha b'biyah levada. What does he do then? Hi svara, this svara, right? Because remember, according to Rabbi, he says that only the first one was considered skila, and everybody else is going to be bechenek. And therefore, according to Rabbi, he's learning that uvala is that a woman is mitkadesha b'biyah levada without anything else, right? At the beginning of the sugya, that's why, because he didn't have the question of Rabbi Yochanan, right? Ad mekadesh ad bayil v'chulu v'chulu. He didn't have that question, right? Because if it was done through somebody else, it doesn't matter. So he comes and he says, in Ken, if so, lichtov rachmana uva'al. The Torah should have just written uva'al. My uvalah. Why did it say uvalah? Why did you add the hey? Shmamina tarte. You're learning two things. That number one, a woman can be mikadeshet b'biyah, and also that it's by itself lapuke from the Ama Ha'ivriya. Means you're learning two different halachot from the same, from the fact that the word was used instead of uva'al. It's just an uvalah. He had relations with her. Obviously, if it says kikach isha uval, it means uvalota. He said no, uvalah means that he had relations with her, teaching us two different halachot. Biyah helps, and that it's only for her, not for Ama Ha'ivriya. Says the Gemara according to the Rabbi, that he says Bar Ahina Sbirali, that Bar Ahina came and he explained to me the makor of these psukim, that he says kikach ish isha uvalah kiddushin, that when it says kikach and then it says uvalah, kiddushin amesurin lebiyah kiddushin. Only kiddushin which are fitting for biyah is going to be considered kiddushin. Kiddushin she'em mesurim biyah, but kiddushin which are not fitting for biyah, lo avi kiddushin is not considered kiddushin. Michael, what are you going to do? Which means like this. Basically, right? What happens? Can you come and you do kiddushin to a woman which you cannot have biyah with her?
Should not.
So that's where do you learn that from? So you learn that from here. Kikach ish isha uvalah. The kiddushin are only chalin if you could have biyah with her. Obviously permitted biyah. We're not talking about theoretically, right? Permitted biyah. So says the Gemara. So now, if you're going to come and you're going to use this uvalah to teach you that kiddushin is only chal when it could be given over for biyah, so therefore, what do you do with this here? Because then you just use it for other things. Then. So answers the Gemara. Im ken if so nichtov kra o be'alah, right? Meaning kikach ishisha o be'alah, which means that she could have the kiddushin through kesef or through biyah. My uvalah with a vav, uvalah, right? Well, he says, what does mean uvalah? Shema mina kulu. We're learning all three halachot. So according to Rabbi, we're learning three halachot from the same halacha. Three halachot. Number one, you could do biyah. Number two, and by itself, by the way, right? Number two, right, that it's only by the woman, not by a Ama Ha'ivriya. Number three, only a kiddushin, which is fitting for biyah, is a good kiddushin. If it's not fitting for biyah, it's not good for a kiddushin. The Rabbi, and according to Rabbi, what do you do with the pasuk beulat ba'al? Because remember, according to Rabbi Yochanan and the others, they learned that you could do biyah through beulat ba'al. Since he became a baal through the bi'ilah, it's going to be good. But according to Rabbi, what do you learn with the pasuk of beulat ba'al? He comes over here and he says, he needs it. Baal ose ota beula shelo kedarka. Me'en acher ose ota beula shelo kedarka. Rabbi Yochanan, but remember, Rabbi Yochanan was the one that said, right, he had to agree to Rabbi. So he wants to come and say, how do I know the husband makes her into a beula shelo kedarka? Because remember, according to Rabbi Yochanan, right, they were always a betula. Right? According to Rabbi Yochanan, was always a betula. It was only Rabbi that said, no, shelo kedarka, by another man, always makes her into a beula. How do you know that the husband makes her into a beula shelo kedarka? Says Rabbi Yochanan, baal oseh to beula shelo kedarka, beulat baal. Any type of biyah done through the baal. Meaning, the baal has any type of biyah. I don't care, it's shekedarka, lo kedarka, that makes her into a beula. Beulat baal. So ask the Gemara, does Rabbi actually help that shelo kedarka through other people, she's still considered, right? Betula. Batanya, we learned in a Braita, ba'u aleha asara, asara nashim, ba'dain hi betula. Imagine right now, 10 people came onto her, Yeah, and then what happened was she's a betula. Yeah, one more time. 10 people come onto her, and she's still a betula. Kulam beskila. Everybody gets sekila. Rabbi says, I'm going to say Arishon beskila. Kulam mechenek. Right? The first one is sekila. Everybody else is chenek. So you see, come here, that even other people shelo kedarka also make her into a beula. Yeah. So it's mefurash that Rabbi holds that mishat be'ala Arishon shelo kedarka. Right? Afshena be'ala. She's already considered a beula. That's beulat baal. So therefore, what's going on over here exactly? So Amar Rabbi Zera says Rabbi Zera, Moder Rabbi Linyan class, but Rabbi, even though he says to do the death penalty, you're right. Biyah shelo kedarka makes her into a beula to do with knas of ones and mefate. Tekulu meshalme. Everybody pays. Why? Just like ones and mefate to betula, which means beulat baal is only teaching you to do with the death penalty and not to do with the punishment. Because to do with the punishment, they do get the punishment, meaning like the death penalty they don't get. They get a lower death penalty. So it's sekilat to cherek, but the punishment, which is the money, they still get it, right, as well.